we are going to be hearing from Brendan Slocumb, author of Violin Conspiracy. Cue the book, please. Brendan is originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina. He earned a degree in music education with concentrations in both violin and viola from the University of North Carolina, at Greensboro. I'm behind time. For more than 20 years, he has been a public and private school music educator and has performed with orchestras throughout the DMV. Now, I have to confess that I don't really like mystery books, although I love classical music. But the real reason that I'm the introducer today is that I'm a huge fan of Torie, Clarke, and Chatter on Books. And so
you really have to get out more.
Right. Really. So this is a podcast where for the first 20 minutes they talk about sports with David Aldridge. Then they do a Dolly Parton tribute. And then they get to some of the most provocative and interesting books around. And so I encourage you to subscribe. But let me turn it over to Torie. She has an amazing background, but I think she would probably prefer we just start talking about the Violin Conspiracy.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And thank you, my gosh, thank all of you for coming out in the first place, staying all day. It was so great to be here. It was so great to have Chatter on Books be part of the Gaithersburg Book Festival. And I'm sure everyone's doing this all day long, but a big hats off to Mayor Judd Ashman, and the hundreds of volunteers who make this festival work. It's really, really spectacular. So thank you to everybody. In just a minute, we're going to be talking to Brendan a little bit about his backstory, a lot about this fabulous book, and then wherever the conversation takes us. But just a quick PSA on Chatter on Books. If you're not a listener, you should be. And as we like to say, Chatter on Books, it ain't your mother's book club. We don't wear cat sweaters. We do not give speeches about how Pride and Prejudice changed our life as young girls many years ago, ever. We debate bestsellers. We interview fantastic authors. We go wherever the conversation takes us. It is a heck of a lot of fun. So we get to have access to incredible people like Brendan. Brendan, great to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you, too.
Thanks for having us here. David, thanks for joining us.
Of course. Pleasure.
Okay.
Can I just say this before we start? Because this is the first time, Torie, we had one event maybe where we had a few fans of the show.
Yeah.
At a couple, maybe up at...
and some bookstores, yeah.
On Capitol Hill.
East City Books.
East City Books, right.
Loyalty Books.
But this is the biggest outpouring of fans. And these are people who really, really, really love books. And I'm looking around, and I realize I am by far the dumbest person here. It's not even close. You all are much more learned and book read than I will try to keep up in the next 45 minutes or so.
David and I are clearly the least literary. That's our strength. It's like a jiu-jitsu thing. But, as Jackie was saying, we often spend... Okay, the reason my 320-somethings talk to me is because I know David Aldridge.
Yeah, whatever.
You know, it is very, very true. They think their old mother's tiny bit cool because I know David. And often there's a lot going on in the sports world that we care about. And so I shamelessly exploit David and The Athletic to get insights. He went to a lot of trouble to get here today, flying from Chicago, where he's covering the NBA playoffs. And I'll just read you a tweet. And my kids understand what this means. This was 13 hours ago, David.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole is the bridge. It is his presence that melds the Warriors. By the way, the coach of the Warriors is my future trophy husband. Yeah.
I've told him that. He was...
Not impressed.
He was concerned.
He was... That melds the Warriors' great Splash Brothers / Draymond pass to its future, with Kuminga and Moody et al. Without him, Golden State may have had to choose. Now they don't have to. Poole's emergence ties it all together. Okay, David, we don't have 20 minutes. A minute? What does that mean?
That means Jordan Poole's really good, and he's helping the Warriors still be great.
Ta-da. Who's going to win?
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Probably Golden State, but I said it with no particular conviction.
This will make me so happy. Since the Caps have gone out, tragically again in the first round, I've been able to go all in on the NBA playoffs. Okay.
I can text your future husband right now if you like.
I dare you to. I dare you to. Torie's going all in on this tragic quest to get you in her life. Okay, Brendan Slocumb. We have had many, many authors on this show. A remarkable number of them, before they became incredibly successful, wonderful authors, they wanted to be lawyers. They wanted to be astronauts. They wanted to be athletes. I don't think we've ever had a classical musician.
No.
Ever.
First one.
So I've read a lot of interviews and I've read a lot about you. As a way of getting into your backstory, you started playing the violin as a child. which I'm guessing at 8, 9 years old, not a lot of kids that look like you were playing the violin, but you said it saved you. Tell us how playing the violin saved you.
First, thank you guys so much for braving the heat and coming out, and it's really, really, really appreciated. And before I get into this, I do this every time I am at an event. I show my appreciation by taking a picture of you guys.
There you go.
Tuck in. Everybody tuck in.
Okay, just give me one of these. I need one, really.
What does that mean? I don't even know. Is that hook 'em horns? I don't know what that means.
Thank y'all.
Oh, that's
It's
our
that
story we're
hang
sticking
loose,
with.
hang loose. There was a question in there.
How did the violin save your life?
Yeah, I actually started playing violin when I was 9 years old in a public school music program.
I'm sorry, were you late for music class and that was the last instrument left? Is that who shoved the violin in your hands?
Totally true story. A couple of friends of mine, 5th grade, a nice lady came around and said, we offer string lessons. You just have to rent your own instrument. I didn't hear any of that. All I heard was you get out of class 2 days a week. I'm in. Yes, let's do this. Here we go. So my friends and I decided that we were going to do it, and at the last minute, they dropped out. And I was like, well, I'm going to do this because I want to go. I didn't do my homework. Yes, we have to do this. And from the moment I picked it up, I absolutely loved it. It was life-changing. That moment, I will never forget what it felt like in my hands, and it was great. It was so much fun.
But you play other instruments as well,
I do.
You teach.
Yes.
What's your teaching philosophy?
Take every student where they are and take them further. Take them where they are. I'm not expecting anyone to be world-class musicians. I take them where they are, and I do my best to take them. If they know more tomorrow than they did the day before, then I'm successful.
Okay, David may have heard this story. I'm the youngest of 5 girls. The older 4, enormously talented, good students, good athletes, good musicians, everything. Me, not so much. Followed my 4 obnoxiously talented sisters to Catholic school. And you go to Catholic grade school, everyone needs to learn something. So, of course, I'm going to learn how to play the piano with the nuns. 2 weeks into my lessons, the nuns, Sister Mary Clement, I remember her, calls my mother and says, I don't think this is for Torie. I'm getting fired from piano lessons, which I think cost $1 a lesson or something at the time. And my mother said, I don't think that's for you to decide. And Sister Mary Clement said, yeah, it is.
Actually,
that was it. That was it. And then 1,000 years later, I tortured my children by saying, okay, if I could learn how to play the piano, they will, damn it. It didn't work. It did not work. Okay. I want to read a blurb from the back of Brendan's book here from Misty Copeland, who's an incredible person. And she says, the Violin Conspiracy reminds all of us that dreams are worth pursuing no matter the obstacles. The struggle to follow your heart is always the same, and this novel inspires us to take the chance, make the leap, and dare to be better. This was a wonderful read, which it is. You're an incredibly successful musician. You've performed around the world. You've performed and taught at the highest levels. What was it that caused you to leap into this field and say, oh, I can or I want to write a book?
COVID.
Really?
Okay.
COVID, summer 2020 was horrible for so many reasons, for so many people. And as a working musician, I'm teaching, I'm practicing, I'm performing. Everything stopped. Like, there were no, okay, we're going to reschedule. Everything was canceled. Everything. No rehearsals, no recitals, no weddings, no receptions, nothing. All my practicing stopped. Lessons had to stop in person. Yeah. So, you try the Zoom thing for a couple of weeks, and, I turned the camera off and started playing my video games because it was just, Zoom. Everybody zoomed out. So I saw an advertisement for selling books in the age of COVID. And I was like, all right. I'd written a manuscript 20 years ago, a science fiction book. I submitted. I got a letter back that said, this is terrible. But you've got a good voice, so you should try writing what you know, and it's definitely not science fiction. I was like, all right, well, we figured that one out. So I was like, I know music. I wrote a little bit of the Violin Conspiracy, submitted it, and my current agent just said, this is really good. If you're serious, write every day. It's like, yeah, that's no problem. I'm accustomed to practicing, 2-3 hours a day, so that was no big deal to sit down and type. And People hate it when I say this to them, but 2 months later, I had the Violin Conspiracy written.
Wow. Yeah, people hate you.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate you.
I don't
Okay.
hate you.
Give us the snapshot of the plot, and we have to be very careful about talking about this. This is a mystery. This is a thriller. There are twists and turns in this wonderful book. But give us the snapshot of the plot, which is somewhat autobiographical.
Yes, 92% of what happens in the book is from my life. Just 92%. The elevator pitch for Violin Conspiracy, it's the story of Ray, who discovers that his old family fiddle is actually a priceless Stradivarius violin. And this discovery catapults him into superstardom in the world of classical music. Right before the Tchaikovsky competition, which is the Olympics of classical music, his violin is stolen. Will he get it back? Will he get to compete? Will he win? Who took it? Was it his family who thinks that he should sell the instrument so they can split the 10 million bucks? Was it the slave owners' descendants who used to own Ray's great-great-grandfather who think that the violin was stolen from their family and they want it back? Was it Mike the doorman? Who knows?
There were some harrowing scenes in the book in which Ray experiences some horrific racist behavior. Again, somewhat autobiographical. Maybe share one, and I've read enough about you now that you believe people should be called out on it. And Ray does.
I do believe people should be called out, and I also think that I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. You never know what people are going through. You never know. You never know. So, maybe I'm not just assuming that people are inherently racist. Maybe that was just a bad day. You never know. I'm an optimist. One scene in particular, the only thing that separates the main character Ray from me is that he actually ended up going to jail and I did not. The Baton Rouge scene. Ray is driving down the road to LSU and he makes an illegal lane change. He puts his signal on from the right lane. He gets over to the left, turns left, and a cop pulls him over, stops him, and pulls his gun, makes him get on his hands and knees, and who are you? What is this in the back? You probably stole that instrument. That's not yours. And yeah, it was the same thing. That was kind of hard to write because it brought back a lot of painful memories. That's why I will never go back to the city of Baton Rouge again. I had that horrible experience.
Completely understandable. Okay, let's talk about ambition. And David, I want to bring you in on this because one of the things throughout the book, and I think Misty kind of spoke to that in her blurb, is that if there's something you love doing, then pursue it. Mm-hmm. And if you want to go to the highest levels, great. Continue to work hard. Don't listen to the voices and the people who say no. But talk about ambition from a macro level for you, because you're now performing at the highest levels at some very challenging fields. And then at a micro level, raise ambition. And then I want to ask David about the kind of people you follow every single day.
Sure. I've been told, this is not for you. You can't do this. You should really do something else that you're going to be good at. I'm a musician. I have done the work. I sit with my counterparts and I play the parts just as well. And, I know the repertoire. I can do everything as well as my counterparts do. But it's amazing to me how people will just look at me and they will make the assumption that I'm not as good. Mm-hmm. I've heard so many times, after a performance, whoa, you were so much better than I thought you were going to be. And I'm like, am I supposed to say thank you to that? I don't get, is that in their head, that's a compliment, but it's really, I've had to deal with that for most of my career, and sadly, I'm accustomed to it. It's just one of those things that, being a black man in classical music, I've just had to endure. And as far as Ray is concerned in the book, he gets it constantly. And the thing that I really wanted to write about his character is his resilience. He every obstacle you can imagine gets put in front of him, but he doesn't quit and he doesn't give up, and he does it in a respectful manner. He always maintains his composure and he's always respectful, which is an underlying theme in the book. Just always keep self-respect for yourself, for others around you all the time.
So respectful. It's several times reading this book, I was like, come on, time to unleash. Okay, David, you're around people and you cover people and you've known athletes and coaches and owners over the years. Incredibly ambitious. Is there ever too much? Is there ever too much ambition?
Oh, well, of course there is, but but that's why they're there, because they believed this preposterous dream that they could play in the NBA. And they really did believe it, and they continued to believe it. And people in management, we saw in Chicago, Steve Ballmer, who owns the LA Clippers, he's at this pre-draft camp. There is no reason for him to be at this pre-draft camp whatsoever.
Right.
And he's the chairman of Microsoft or whatever he was, ultra-trillion billionaire. And those people are just wired differently than normal people,
Yeah.
The resiliency required to constantly fail and to continue. And that's all that sports is continuing in the face of failure. Because they fail every night, whatever the sport is. But you have to try again and try at the very highest level. And so there's certainly parallels to that. I'm sure you haven't played your best every night, but you have to play. You got another show tomorrow, right? And you may play great tomorrow.
I do.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to keep going.
Quick commercial. I seldom say authors' websites are good. Brendan's is really good, and you can listen to him play. That was one of the greatest things. I was doing a lot of driving lately. Did you ever think about giving up? I mean, let's just stick with music for a second. Overwhelmingly white industry. And did you ever at some point go, no, I'm really good, I'm really talented, I get that, but it's not worth it?
Yes, not for that reason. And again, there's another parallel in the book. I did a performance.
This is really good. He's very good at this. When the authors actually keep bringing it back to book, it's fabulous.
I've been trained very well.
And I will periodically do this.
I did a performance in college, and I was playing for any musicians out here, I was playing the Kablevsky Violin Concerto, and it was just the most wretched performance I have ever given, and I didn't.
Nerves? Why was it so wretched?
I did not play well. Every wrong note, I hit every single one, and I loved the piece, but for some reason the performance just did not go well, and I was done. I can't do this. I quit. I'm completely done. My teacher, who is the reason that I'm here today, she called me after that performance and said, "Brendan, that wasn't great. That was not great at all, but we're going to take what we learned and we're going to apply it to the next one, and we're going to do our best to make the next one better." And she kept me going, and I absolutely did. And I came back like a month later, and I just blew everybody out of the water with that next performance. But I was that close to quitting and just giving up and like joining the Army. Not that there's anything wrong with the Army, but
Nothing wrong with the Army.
Nothing.
We, David and I and his lovely better half, Diane, were talking before this about F1. My family is addicted. And I should never say this at a book festival, Mayor Judd, but when you're done reading all these fabulous books and checking out Brendan's website, check out F1. It's incredible. And one of the top racers, 7-time world champion, is Lewis Hamilton, who is black. Overwhelmingly white sport. Overwhelmingly. Mm-hmm. And he's had very interesting things to say about it, and it's very similar. I mean, so many people along the way in the leagues that lead up to the pinnacle here in racing said, "No, you can do lots of other things. You don't have to do this." He goes, "No, I have to do this. Mm-hmm. I absolutely have to do this." But he's had a not very good year. I promise, Judd, we'll bring him back to books in just a minute.
Yeah.
Lewis has not had a good year, which is very distressing to me because I wear his stuff. I wear his jerseys and his hat and everything else. He's not had a good year, and he goes, "Of course I want to win. Of course I want to be the best." He says, "But I learn so much when I don't do well."
Yeah.
And even at this stage, just fabulous. So what did you learn writing this book?
Whoa. Wow. I learned that this particular story is one that needs to be told and needs to be read by a lot of people who don't look like me, particularly because my perspective is a lot different, let's say, than this guy's right here, for obvious reasons. And it's not better or worse, it's just different. And when you open people's eyes to different perspectives, it changes your life. It truly does. I've had people come up to me after reading this book, and they said, "I had no idea this is what it was like for you. I just assumed." It's like, well, yeah, it's and they look at things very, very differently. They take a second look. Everything is not the same. We're not, we're all God's children, but we are all very, very different, and we all have very different experiences, and they're not better and they're not worse. They're just different, and different is just as valid.
Again, going back to Brendan's website, which is fabulous, there are some testimonials from parents of people whose children, I assume, young people, he's taught various musical instruments, and they're absolutely remarkable. And there's a fair amount of that saying, my kid, I assume they're parents of a child of color, couldn't believe that someone who looked like him could pursue this musical career, and has because of Brendan. So you're getting the same kind of response to the book, which is fabulous. David?
I have one quick question.
Please.
'Cause I
Will
think
this bug quit bothering us? The one that we're
that's
all,
okay.
like our pantomimes?
He's a book.
Yeah.
He's a reader, obviously. The bug. Part of what you have talked about and write about. I'm always curious about imposter syndrome. Oh. And it goes double, goes quadruple for us. You know what I mean? Like, and so, how did you kind of deal with that?
You might want to explain imposter syndrome for
We all
some
have it.
people.
All of us experience imposter syndrome, which is basically I don't belong here. Whatever you're doing for a living, if you're a student, you're in a class, and there's people that you know are way smarter than you, or you're at a job and there's people who are more experienced than you, you think, why am I here? How did I get here? I'm not supposed to be here. There's somebody better qualified than me that's not here, and I'm taking their spot. And we all have it. But for people of color, that is like 10 times 10 billion, you know, because there's no reinforcement. You're the only one. So.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
It is a real thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's called the black tax. We have to work twice as hard, 3 times as hard to get half the credit a lot of times, and it's very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. You know, I put just as much time in as my counterpart. I learn everything that I have the same teacher, the same classes, but just because of the color of my skin, I am inferior.
Yeah.
And, you know, people question that, and it sucks. It's one of those things that we just have to deal with. And one reason that I wrote the book was so that people can understand what it's like, what we have to go through. It's a real thing. And, you know, people have asked me, Brendan, how do you stay so nice, you know, after going through all of this stuff? I mean, what are my options? I could be mad all day long, or, you know, just being mad gives you wrinkles, and I got plenty of those already. But, you know, I learned very early on from my family and my friends and mentors that, you know, just you have to tune everyone else out. You have to just, if you love it, you can do it, and you should. Don't let anyone or anything keep you from doing what it is that you loved. And I absolutely loved playing the violin. Mm-hmm. You know, I was told every day that I shouldn't do it. No, you're not going to be successful at that every single day. Mm-hmm. But I kept at it because I loved it, and I had people to push me who understood how important it was for me to do what I loved. And so that is my philosophy to this day. That's why I got that thank you tattoo, to show my gratitude to everyone who's supported me in any way, shape, or form, and it hurt. So yeah.
You have so many friends and colleagues and peers and competitors in the world of music, and I assume a lot of them have read this book. Do some of them come to you and say, that can't be true? You didn't, you know, no, you've been great, you've been wonderful and so successful. These things didn't happen to you.
I've gotten more along the lines of like the statement that I just made. Brendan, I can't believe all of this happened to you, and you're still so nice. You're such a nice guy. You're not bitter. You're not angry. There have been times, and definitely, you know, there's times that anger is appropriate, and you get mad, and you get really mad, but you refocus it, because that's just one barrier that's going to keep you from doing what you love, and nothing should ever stop you from doing what you love. Mm-hmm. If you love horses, go be with horses. You know, you love cooking, cook until your heart is content. You love, you know, clog until your feet, whatever it is that you love.
If you love clogging, stop. No.
Whatever it is that you love, do it, because it's your life. Do it, and you should have no regrets. You should have 0 regrets.
Have you been asked to do any commencements yet?
No. Okay, it's so funny you asked me that.
Let me talk to your agent.
I'm actually doing one next Wednesday for the City College of New York.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
CCNY. How about that?
Did we just hear a little teaser? Was that the trailer?
Probably, because I haven't written the speech yet. So yeah. I'm much better extemporaneously.
Good for them. Okay, this is the point in the show, Chatter on Books, where usually, the authors are brilliant and they're wonderful and insightful, and they say something really sincere and meaningful, and we should just stop and go to your questions. But instead, on Chatter on Books, we embarrass them with something we call 60 seconds more. David, you're going to participate this time.
Oh Lord, wait a minute.
Brendan, did you get warned about 60 seconds more? No, I typed one out for you, David.
Not at all.
No, someone else is going to time.
Oh, somebody
So
else
this
is timing this week?
We call it 60 seconds more. It's badly named.
Yeah,
but we
it's
just kind of
really
rapid
badly
fire
named.
ask questions to kind of get to the heart of Brendan as a reader, as a writer, things I care about. So we need somebody. Does anybody have a watch with a second hand, or can somebody do a minute? Jackie, come on up to the front row, honey. Come on.
Yeah, Jackie.
Like church, get up to the front row. If you want to be saved, get up to the front row. I've been told that. I lived in North Carolina. That's right. Okay, so Jackie's going to say go. I'll ask the first question, and then we'll just alternate, David.
Okay.
Unless you
Wait,
don't.
is there a prize?
You get to leave with some semblance of dignity.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will take that.
Small semblance of dignity?
Always use some of that.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
David, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Jackie, yell. And you have to yell time. It's 60 seconds, but we'll just keep going. Brendan, favorite childhood book?
Epic of Gilgamesh.
Ooh, crowd favorite. Okay,
Nice.
David.
Your ideal writing situation.
Me in my office with a big glass of orange juice.
Dreadful. David and I, it's wine, beer. Okay, is it okay to quit reading a book if you've started it but you don't love it?
Yes.
Diane? Okay,
Not
good.
the Violin Conspiracy, but yes.
Oh, keep reading that.
You'll never stop reading.
All right. The best classic and the worst classic.
Best classic is the Oedipus cycle.
Good one.
Worst. I was gonna say Moby Dick, actually. Yeah.
My new favorite person. Spectacular. What is harder, writing or teaching someone to play the violin?
Tie.
Should we keep going, even though we're way over?
Yeah,
a
go
minute
ahead.
now?
Go ahead. These people aren't going anywhere.
if you
They've
could-
melted.
If you could come back in another life as any writer, who would it be?
Chris Bojalian. He wrote The Flight Attendant.
Wow, good one.
Okay.
And he said really nice things about Violin Conspiracy.
He did.
Which is great because he does
I want
not.
to be him when I grow up.
He does not blurb many books. That's
No.
fabulous.
Yeah.
What did you like so much about Flight Attendant? This is why 60 seconds is 60 minutes.
There's a turn on every page. You
Yeah.
never know what's going to happen, and how he does that, it's amazing. He just whips these books out, and the every page there's something crazy happening, and you're like, how does he do this? And then it all kind of comes together, and it's just amazing. And I really do want to be him when I grow up.
Okay, there's still time. Okay, you got to spend the rest of your life on a deserted island all by yourself, and you can only take one book. What do you take?
My X-Men #1.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Revealing a lot there. Okay, David, last
Our
one.
last one, since you're going to be speaking at CCNY. In addition to the Violin Conspiracy, a book recommendation for a graduating high school or college graduate.
Wow, so many. Wow, there's so many good ones. I would recommend someone just graduated from high school or college. Let's go with, there's a great book out called Karma by Michael Albee. And if anyone has ever cared about anyone ever just had any sentimental feelings about anyone, if you've ever given a crap about anyone, read this book. It's fantastic. Karma,
Nice.
with a K.
Nice. I'll recommend Violin Conspiracy.
That too.
I will recommend that. Okay, Jackie, now we ask our lovely, warm crowd. Any questions?
Yes, please.
For
fire
David,
away.
too. 'Cause-
No, not to me. Well, you can ask me later.
no. They can ask as long as they want.
Fire away. Don't be shy.
No time limits
Be
on the
shy.
questions.
Yeah, right there.
You said you wrote Violin Conspiracy during the pandemic. We'll have another one of those. So will you be writing another book?
I like you. Good question. Yeah, actually, I am on the third draft of my second book, which will be out in 23. And as soon as
Wow.
I get approval on that draft, which will hopefully be by July 1st, I am starting on my third book, which is called Death and the Maiden. It's music-centric. But let me tell you about the second book. I can give you an elevator pitch for that.
This is great.
This is good stuff. I know it's good, right? My second book is called The Composer's Last Score, but it's not like music. All of my stuff is going to be a little bit music-centered, but you don't have to be a musician to get it. It's the story of America's preeminent composer. This guy is bigger than Beethoven and Bach and Mozart. His 150th anniversary celebration is coming up, and his family, who runs his foundation, is throwing a worldwide celebration. They hire a musicologist to do some research to see why this guy was so beloved by everyone. During his research, the musicologist discovers that he may not have written any of his music and that it was probably appropriated from a black woman who we now know would be living with autism, and the family will do everything they can to keep that from getting out.
Sounds fabulous. Thank you for asking that question.
It's an okay plot.
Yeah.
Yes.
David,
Like
who
that
was the
sort of-
person who told us about his next book? Or, was it Kerry Tangy who wrote the book about the quarterback who gets killed?
Yes.
And David informed us that he had written 60 pages
60
of a
pages.
book about a
The
quarterback
same-
that gets
the
killed.
Same
Like,
book.
ooh,
The
darn.
exact same book.
Moving on. Next topic. Anybody else?
Suck. I saw another hand. There was someone else? Yes, go ahead.
As long as it's not about Pride and Prejudice. 'Cause,
Or
no.
Moby Dick.
Yeah, or Moby Dick. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to share that I was listening to the Violin Conspiracy a couple months ago, and Brendan narrates it, so I was very familiar with his voice. And the TV was on, it was in the morning, the TV was on in the other room, and I was brushing my teeth, and I heard his voice. And I walked out, and he was on Good Morning America. Wow. And I stopped. And I listened to the end of the interview. And Brendan was, now I'm listening to the book at this time, and I'm totally engaged. And when I listened to the end of the interview, I stood there with my toothbrush in my mouth, and I in my apartment, and I gave you a big cheer.
Thank you.
That's
What's your name?
fabulous.
My name is Kathy. And I also want to tell you that the book is really moving for me because I've been an architect for 40 years. And there are 50% of the people in architecture schools are women. But only 18% of the people in the field are women.
Wow.
We go through the same thing. Maybe not the same, but similar.
Yeah.
So your story resonated with me very much.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Nice.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. First of all, the story, because that's all I do. 1,000 years ago, I used to tape a really dreadful CNBC public affairs show with Mary Madeline called Equal Time. And it was supposed to be Mary, who was a conservative, and she had various Democratic co-hosts, and they would always quit after a few months. And I would fill in, and they paid me exorbitant sums of money. It was great. And Mary and I hated having politicians on, so we often had authors on. And we could decide in 30 seconds before taping the show whether or not we liked the author. And if we liked the author, and by the way, David's heard this story, we were both pregnant at the time. And speaking of not having friends, our friends would let two fat pregnant ladies go out to tape the show. For some reason, we decided plaid was our thing. You do not let pregnant women go on TV wearing plaid dresses, but we did. And if we liked the author, we would sit with the book on our pregnant stomachs for the entire show. And if we didn't like the author, the book would go down the table, never to be seen. The Violin Conspiracy, is a fabulous book, Brendan. Thank you for writing it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you to all of you. Mayor Judd, thank you so much for making all of this happen. Go buy the book. Brendan's going to be here for a little bit signing it. And hope you listen to Chatter on Books. We're off for a couple of weeks, so I don't even know who we have. Oh, Lou Byard. You've had Lou Byard here. Lou Byard, great guy. Pale Blue Eye, Courting Mr. Lincoln, and he's got a new one out called Jackie and Me. He is next up on Chatter on Books. But thank you all so much. Great to see you.
Thank you, guys.
You're awesome.